Today is March 13th, 2020. Down here at the pond. Got me a little bobber out there, just kind of just enjoy a little bit of the day. There's a lot of stuff I could be doing, but sometimes you just need to stop and think about stuff and assess the situation. And that's what I'm kind of thinking about today. I went to the grocery store this morning and was kind of surprised. I know everybody by now has heard about the infamous coronavirus, and there's so much information out there, and then there's, I guess, a lack of information, so you don't really know which way to be on it. I've always been more of the be prepared but don't panic about things. I don't know if I'd necessarily call myself a prepper or anything like that. I do get a little extra stuff here and there just in case. And I enjoy knowing a lot of different things, a little bit about a lot of things. I think the more you know, the more able you are to adapt to things that are changing. And I'm seeing that right now with the way people are reacting to this virus. I think we're seeing something we've never seen before. Not that there hasn't been viruses, not that there hasn't been, pandemics or whatnot. The thing that makes it different that we've never seen before is the fact that all of our economies in the entire world are tied together. If it wasn't like that, then yes, it would be bad in some areas, and you feel bad for the people that it affects, but it wouldn't affect everybody. And the way everything is set up now, so that we have lots and lots and lots of middlemen making a lot of money off of everybody, you're seeing that. And you're seeing things that are being closed and things that are being not shipped because of the area that they're in. I watch the cattle market a little bit. We have a few cows. We've got some goats, things like that. I usually sell to individuals. I've never even taken a goat to a sale barn. I have taken calves back in the day, not lately. I can usually sell everything to individuals at local farms or things like that. Worst case scenario, I'll take them to the auction barn, but I haven't had to do that yet. But the prices are terrible from what I'm understanding right now. And I saw this morning where there's actual talk. In the last couple of days, they've been shutting down schools and functions and telling people that if you can work from home, that sort of thing, which, as you know, that doesn't really apply to that many people, which there's lots of videos on YouTube that cover that, so I'm not going to get into that. But somebody said something this morning about, well, what happens if they decide to shut down the packing plants because of the virus to not infect their employees? Cattle prices are already down. Anybody that's in farming and ranching type stuff knows that 2019 was terrible. The floods in Nebraska and that whole area all the way down the Mississippi, just lots and lots of flooding everywhere. Lots of things didn't get planted. The things that did get planted, it was too wet to harvest. During the floods, so much grain and stockpile was lost. So there's already somewhat of a shortage of feed for your livestock, seed to reseed for this year for food and for feed. There's just so many different factors affecting everything right now, and you kind of don't know what to make of it. As far as us, on a very, very, very small scale, our little farm here, not necessarily going to affect us, really, no matter what happens. Now, who knows in the next few years? I think it's going to take time for everything to catch back up. I don't know what the cattle prices are going to do. You could go out and you could buy some calves really cheap right now, feed them through the summer, on grass, and normally you would sell them in the fall or spring next year. But what if the prices still don't recover? What if we're still in this that we're in right now? There's just way too many unknowns. So I think we're in a good place as far as where we are. But this whole virus, I went to the grocery store this morning and there was so many people, and I go pretty early in the morning to avoid the crowd, but this was panic buying. I took pictures of the shelves, empty toilet paper, empty rice, beans, any kind of dry goods like that. It was empty. Cleaning supplies, the same type of thing you're seeing everywhere, but I'm seeing it now locally. Now, it's not as bad as it could be. Like the dollar stores and places like that still have plenty. I don't think people are thinking about that. They're going to the grocery store to get food. And I've heard two different concepts. Everybody's like, well, why is everybody buying all the toilet paper? It's not like we're in a hurricane. Why are people buying all this food and stuff? We're going to be able to cook. We're not going to lose electricity. It's not like a storm. I think the concept behind get your stuff now so you don't have to do it later is so that if borders and states get shut down, which that has been talked about, I don't know how goods will still travel. So there could be a shortage. I could see that. My thought on it personally is, if you have the stuff at your house, then why put yourself out there to, one, potentially be exposed? My parents are both in their 70s. My aunt's in her 80s. I'd rather not go get it and bring it home if I don't have to, so why risk it? If you've got everything at the house, then you don't really have to. Feed is another thing. We're coming into spring. It's, like I said, March 13th, I think. Grass is starting to come out. We've still got some hay. Now, my rabbits, I feed them, which I could butcher a good many of them. Take those mouths that I'm feeding out. Chickens, ducks pretty much feed themselves. I don't really have to feed them. Most of my goats can be put out on pasture since the grass everything's starting to come up and green up. So I can feed them without feeding an actual store-bought feed. I've got 2 goats at the house that I'm milking, which I need to keep at least one going. One of them, she's almost 3 months bred, so I'll start drying her off and start milking the other one. They're really the only ones I'm feeding. The majority of the feed goes to them. But even that, going to the feed store I'm not really worried too much, because there's not usually giant crowds of people buying feed. So that's not really that big of a deal. Unless their supplies get shut, and they can't get the feed, which that's a whole nother issue. But like I said, we're coming into spring. I can make do. I'm not really worried about that too much. I've also been working on training my cows to electric fence, which has been going great. And that's going to open up a lot of potential forage on our place. We've got a lot of old fences. This is actually fenced around this pond here, and this was the water source. It's in the center, and there's pastures. You can see it's clear in the sky. Those are pastures that way, and then there's pastures that way, and then this is pretty wooded back this direction, and then our hay fields are back here behind me. But the fence is pretty bad around this, and now that they have a such thing called a solar charger, I have been able to set electric fence up So I will be able to utilize more of our place without actually having to use this pond, because I got my hands on it's an older one, but a really good well pump and tank. And I have a well, and I've always wanted to hook into it, and I've just never done it. I've pumped water out of it before and watered my animals at the house, and that's what I want to get back to doing. So we're actually working on that right now so that we can get that hooked up. And once that's working, I can set up a water tank anywhere on our place, and I can take water to it, so I can put our cows anywhere. Technically the goats too, if I needed to. So I'm not really worried about them. Not really worried about feeding any of my animals. I bought extra dog food just because that way my little Joe's got her food. But even that, I mean, we butcher animals. We got lots of wild pigs. I usually take some of the cuts of meat that's not quite as good, and I'll cook it for Joe. Yeah, what do you think about it? You like them stinky pigs? Oh yeah, her do. So I don't feel too bad about the situation. I feel bad that people are getting sick from this and people are dying. But there's all kinds of diseases out there, and things happen, and it really shows you, though, when you go to the grocery store and you see so many people with a panicked look on their face, and they're trying to figure out what to buy because it's never crossed their mind. They buy groceries every few days, and that's as far as they get. Hopefully we'll be able to put in a decent garden. It's been so wet the last couple of years, we didn't even have a big garden. We had a little bit of stuff right at the house. So hopefully we'll get to do something there and do a little extra just in case, because I have a feeling that this is going to last a while before things get, really back to normal, I guess you would say. I know this crazy things are being canceled all over the place. Like as of right now, we're scheduled to go to San Antonio the first week of May to the Total Archery Challenge, and they haven't canceled it. It's at the Natural Bridge Caverns. I kind of expect to get an email from them saying it's been canceled, so many other things have been canceled. They shut down the Houston Livestock Show. I know it had been going on. I know there had been concerts and different shows had happened, and then all of a sudden they shut it down. They send everybody home. So that's a pretty big deal around here for that to be shut down. That's lots and lots of vendors. Not just food vendors, but they have trailer shows and just all kinds of different stuff. If you've ever been to something like that, it's just huge. And then it's not just the school kids from all over that are showing. They have the junior show, which is the school kids, and then they have an open show, which is your ranches. So we would show the junior show, and then we would stay for another week or however, and we would show in the open show. So you'd be shown with these big ranches. I don't know how far along they got in it before they shut it down. They do it by breeds, so I don't know what all was happening, but it's kind of a big deal if they shut that down. So I think it'll be interesting here in the next couple of weeks to see what's going to happen. Didn't mean to ramble on about all this, but just had some thoughts about what I've been seeing and what I'm kind of thinking about. And hope everybody stays safe and don't panic about things. Things have happened. Things will get better. They may get worse, but they'll get better. Things will work out. So just be safe out there and keep trying to learn.